Hi, and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons with Scott and Friends. And now I have double the pleasure of not only friends, but having my oldest join Andrea and I as we continue the discussion of what it was like being a Dorsey kid. And Andrea and I kind of wrapped up the last little episode talking about being close family, having priority on Friday nights being together, road trips, and that sort of thing. And Andrea, I think there was something you said you were hoping to kind of circle back to as far as you know us approaching you guys individually.
Yeah, so listening to your episode with Clayton, which it's funny kind of listening to him speak because I know him from way back when, his kids that are now 16, they were, in gosh, elementary school, little babies. So it's kind of cool hearing, his journey, just in their relationship and as parents too, just kind of seeing that maybe midway point, which I guess he could probably say the same about us. But one thing that he brought up was just how he had to kind of learn to parent each child differently because just like you would manage different people differently, people are motivated by different things. And you kind of piggybacked on that and said, absolutely, that's definitely an approach. And I think that is something that kind of sticks out as far as how you guys, parented us, and that it wasn't, this is the formula that we follow, for each child. And, I don't know if it's something that you guys necessarily did from the beginning. Of course, all of our personalities kind of took time to develop too. And I don't even think I realized it as much until now, being out of the house and then hearing, Ben Ryan, for instance, his stories of growing up in high school were vastly different than mine, and they were only a few years apart. But the way you guys parented the, us through that period was very different and needed to be different. But Kim, I don't know what you kind of think about that subject. I'm assuming that you kind of feel the same way just as far as those observations, but
Yeah, and coming in after you guys were talking about the focus being on togetherness and how we did spend a lot of time together, the road trips, the game nights. Um, One thing that popped into my head was kind of piggybacking on what you're talking about. Those times would not have been nearly as enjoyable if we also didn't each have our own thing, like with mom and dad. You know, the boys got to do special things with just them. You and I got to do special things with just us. And, every once in a while, me and mom got to go do something, or daddy would take just one of us out on a daddy daughter date. And our time together as a family was only as good as it was because we all felt like we were recognized individually. And, growing up, doing school together, doing church together, I mean, we were together a lot. And it would have been easy to just continuously lump us all together, especially being so close in age. But that's not how it happened. And of course there was times that I know we complained about having to have the boys there, or
Oh, yes.
stuff like that. I know, but
Especially when you guys had your girlfriends over,
yeah.
and it's like, why do they have to be here? Can't they go somewhere?
And mom would always be like, it's their house too. You can't kick them out just because you're having a sleepover.
like, oh, right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know if I should share that story or not.
Yes.
if it popped into your head.
Yeah. So back then, living in Florida, we had this swimming pool,
Oh yeah.
and there would be an
Oh, I know.
occasion where us fellas would kind of commandeer the pool
Yes.
and swim all natural,
Mhm.
Boys only club.
boys only. So that was a special treat for us, and I know you girls hated that. I'm sure
Yes.
that we had the opportunity to do that.
I mean,
We were
a little bit of
restricted
jealousy.
to our room. We had to knock on the door before we could come out to pee so mom could make sure the way was clear.
Yeah. All right. So since they're not here and you ladies are, what are some of those things? Because you, Kim, you alluded to having that one-on-one time, and I know as you got older, especially once we moved back here, we were intentional about daddy-daughter dates. Any particular events or nights that you remember?
The first thing that comes to mind, aside from daddy-daughter dates, which there were a lot of, is sports. We share that love as a family, and all of us kids were in different activities. And so whether probably half on purpose and half just because you had to juggle 4 children, there was a lot of times that it was just one parent with us at, an ice skating competition or a swim meet. And so by default, it turned into one-on-one time. And, even I remember getting up stupid early in the morning and, mom would make chocolate chip muffins for my swim meets. And it was usually you who went with me way early, whether it was traveling to a different pool or just at the long center. Even that in itself was special. And I know, Andrea, you can have the floor with this, but I know your ice skating was much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure the boys probably have similar memories too, even if everyone kind of ended up there eventually, that, early morning trip with one or the other of you guys was always fun, because you felt like kind of like special just to have
Like, this is my day, this is my event.
yeah. Well, and you do things like, you'd stop and get, if you want to go like way back, I little kind of routines that we had, if we were driving with dad, we always used to take turns of like who got to ride with which parent. Sometimes we'd split up boys and girls. And I remember like me and Kim, anytime that we rode with you, we always stopped at the gas station. You got your payday, and we get our Hershey's cookies and cream with our chocolate milk. And, because it wasn't like an everyday thing, it was a specific treat that we got in those instances. We looked forward to the time together, of course, but there was those little things on top of it, or like when we were old enough to like get Starbucks,
Yep.
little things like that just made it like more of a special occasion, even if it was just like a otherwise kind of ordinary day.
Yeah.
So I think what I'd like to reiterate or point out, some of that was most definitely intentional. Some of it was out of necessity. Like you said, having 4 kids, Kim and I still, one of my most favorite road trips ever was when we went to Daytona for a swim meet, from Palm Harbor. And just that one-on-one time, and then but being intentional to spend time with kids one-on-one, I think is vital for long-term healthy relationships. As you guys alluded to, as you got older, those experiences changed, but it was still one-on-one. And for me, I know that's how I got to learn who you were. Um, Collectively, I knew what you were about, but individually, having those one-on-ones opened up conversations. And again, moving back to the whole theme, I think you guys felt very comfortable, especially as you started to get older, to be able to ask anything. And we would, I remember having conversations as well. Um, oh, I just remembered. So I'll ask this now.
Okay.
Total change of pace. When I say the following, what do you think of? Don't tell your mom.
Mother's finest.
Yeah. The movie Jaws.
Oh gosh, don't tell that now. She's gonna watch this.
Yeah, mostly Mother's Finest. I feel like there was other, oh, well, Billy Squire was in that same mix.
Yes, but you know,
It was
looking
always,
back,
it was those things where it's like, I'm letting you in on like a piece of adulthood, and it was never like too much, but it was like,
well,
I trust you enough.
your mom would disagree, but you know,
We turned out fine, okay?
the other part of that would be it was me trying to share a little bit of who I am.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Well, I guess that's what I meant by like inviting us into like pieces of adulthood, like inviting into a relationship with us as equal counterparts.
right.
You know, even though we were still children and there were still like moments where it was like reminded of, you know, who's the parent and who's the child. There was still like, hey, we can have that relationship and we can also be friends, you know, in pockets.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things that I get frustrated now. And, you know, you can email me or private message me if you don't like what I'm about to say, but I don't care. Wanting to be really cautious about being your friend. Not, I didn't want to be your friend for forsaking the role of a parent. And your mom and I were, you know, in lockstep with each other on that. We wanted to be parents first, and then as you got older, which I think developed organically, somewhere that shift has been made to where I value the friendship that I have with each of you um, on a whole different level than I even expected it could be. And so, as a parent, that's an awesome thing to be able to say that four of my closest friends happen to be my kids. So,
Well, and probably more so because you were a parent first. You know, I don't think we necessarily would have had that same relationship. You know, we have you see a lot of different parenting styles and you talk to your friends, you know, growing up even through college and even now seeing, you know, how people kind of approach life and then you hear stories about their family and you're like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Like no wonder why you react this way to this or whatever." Um and I think you see that with like a lot of people who grew up with like their best friend, you know, as their mom or dad, that there's not to say it's like a superficial relationship, you know, but I think it's much different than like the us taking the time to like lay that groundwork and be, you know, parented and respect you as that first and then like kind of let it grow into that friendship that we have now that we're not, you know, directly parented. You know, I still come to you for advice and I think, you know, look up to you, but you know, that like authority figure. Um over my life directly, is not there anymore, but I'm able to kind of, still respect your opinion and take on things. I think more so than if that friendship piece had started too loosely or too early on.
Right.
And, thinking about us as adults now, and now we can say, yes, friends with my parents. But we wouldn't have reached this point if you guys hadn't kind of drawn that line when we were little. Like we never would have gotten to this point. Because, especially now looking back, especially when we were teenagers, the fact that you guys were parents first and we knew that, like, since we were little, did we like all of the things you told us to do, asked us to do? No. And there were times that we didn't understand, and you and mom just had to say, because I said so, basically. But we trusted in the parent part of the relationship enough that, for the most part, I think we did listen, even if there were tears or tantrums. We did, none of us ran away from home or, directly disobeyed something that you told us. And
I feel like Dad's questioning that.
I know.
No.
But like in the extreme that I know some of my friends have.
Pushed to the point of rebellion because you just absolutely know that your parents are totally wrong, and you can't believe they would dare demand that you do this or say that.
Yeah, and they're always saying that they're my best friend and they just always want to get along with me, but now they're wanting to be all parenty, and I'm just not gonna listen.
It's no, I was actually thinking of your responses in those situations. For Kim, she would always just get real quiet. Like, okay, I'm not going to say anything else, and that's fine, but you can't make me talk. Is kind of the approach. Andrea would be a little more out there. Usually it was an eye roll.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mouth might be quiet.
Yeah. And then it would be oh, Kim would too. You both had sighs. Like okay.
Like, I would like to draw attention to how miserable I am right now.
You need to know that I don't like this, but I can't vocalize that.
Right. Yeah, so this has been cool for me because there's so many things that have come back, and I think about a lot of it, just remembering how close we were as a family. But I can't remember now. It's something we talked about, or Andrea earlier, how as close as we were, still being able to have space to be individuals. And that goes for all of us. I still had the opportunity to get away, play golf, do things, but then we always came home, I guess, which is ironic because, to this day, I think a couple of you identify with Florida being home. A couple others, depending on where we were in Georgia, identify that as being home because we moved around so much when you guys were little. So if I asked you that question, kind of changing gears on you, what when I say home, what do you think of? I know.
It depends on what kind of home you're talking about. It's like childhood is split into 3 distinct chapters for me.
Okay.
And I think Andrea and I we're old enough that we remember pre-Florida as very much home. Living in Marietta, it was all the Bryant family, the cousins, the homeschool friends, the Macmillans, church. It was just it was fun. Like, I don't remember anything bad about those first, 7 years.
Mhm.
And then, we had a little byway in Moultrie. That was great too. Sometimes I get nostalgic for Moultrie, and I'm like, it was a brief time, but it felt like we were there forever.
Yeah, 5 months in Moultrie can do that for you.
Yeah. Which I know, I know part of that is because we visited them so often,
Yeah.
and some of it kind of all runs together. But then Florida is turning the point from child into preteen, and another pivotal development.
Hmm.
And so it's just separate, but it all seems like home. There's no one place I feel like I belong, because it was all special.
Cool.
Now, do I want to move back to Florida? Yes, ASAP.
Yeah, take me
But I
with
love
you.
Georgia too.
I do love Georgia, but I'll always identify as a Florida kid, even though I was born and raised there, but didn't live there, so I'll take it.
Mhm.
Andrea, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, now, especially living away from home, I think of home as Sugar Hill, Atlanta area in general. It encompasses the very early years, as well as, for me, like 12 and on, till college. So, plus like where I always like go home to, visiting. So, I think initially, Atlanta in general, and Sugar Hill. But it's funny because I remember like back then when we first moved to Florida, I spent probably 3 or 4 years there, like establishing myself as this like transplanted Georgia girl,
Mhm.
and kind of refusing to, I mean, I enjoyed living in Florida, but making it known that like, no,
I'm not
I'm from
from
Atlanta.
Yes.
Like, I was like 9, so I don't know who I thought I was, but um and I remember it wasn't until like maybe the last like year or two that I kind of realized like how much um of Florida, because they were very transformative years, just that age range.
Mhm.
You're kind of like figuring out who you are and becoming who you are. So I think it wasn't until towards the end that Florida really, started to feel like home. Um, and then I was like finally sad to leave when it came time to it. And again, not to say that I didn't enjoy our time there, but I just laugh thinking of like how much energy I spent
Yes.
refusing to acclimate.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. I remember that now, especially when we moved to Jacksonville for a year. Um, you made it known to everyone that you were from Georgia.
That was not my home.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So be thinking about this. We'll reverse roles. I'll let you ask me anything. Just remember, I am your father. Um, so while you're thinking of a question to ask me, this has been great, and I hope you guys will come back and have more conversations with me, because I would like to know more. And then we have time, even maybe now, briefly. one of the things that your mom and I always struggled with then, and even now kind of look back and kind of, you know, we wanted to have discipline. And there's always that balance as a parent of where and how much and how far. So looking back on childhood coming up and through middle and high school, um, discipline is so hard to navigate. You guys were the children, so looking back on that, are there any thoughts on the disciplinary side of things that stand out, or were we just perfect?
Perfect. A plus. No, I mean, I think, growing up, it was known that you guys were the stricter parents. But it was also known that we had our act together and everyone else was running around like little hellions. So, I mean, that's not always 100%, but, I think it was it always the perfect amount at the right time? I mean, is there really?
No.
I think overall it was effective, and we, learned to appreciate, again, going back to like understanding the why. And even if it wasn't understood right at the moment, when you were able to have those like conversations with people or get invited along, and like even when we were younger, we heard the comments of like, wow, your kids are like so well behaved, or like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you have them like sitting at a restaurant with you. I can't last 5 minutes with my kids. Like you heard those comments from people, and like it doesn't go over your head even as a child. So I think we kind of recognized the payoff of knowing, sometimes it was basics of like how to be polite. And other times it was just like knowing to listen, even if we didn't know why you were asking us to like do a certain thing.
Right. Good. Do you have anything else on that?
I agree. And being again on this side of it, and also looking back and knowing how truly young you and mom were. Like now I'm 32, and that's over a decade older than mom was.
Like I remember her turning 32.
I know. I know. And, especially after being a preschool teacher and a nanny for so long, it's, when I look back, no, you guys weren't perfect, but with all the outside influence you guys had from two totally different families, mom's family up here and your family down here, which, as an aside, can I just say, as a child, it was so difficult to know that if we were at granddaddy's house and we did not say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, please and thank you, we would probably get spanked. Then we go up to Illinois, visit mom's family, and grandpa's like, I'm not a sir, I'm Grandpa Jim. And Aunt Kelly's like, don't call me ma'am. It's like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I can't win.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was just an aside that popped in my head. But
no, but I think that's a fair aside, because it was a challenge, and it's I think that's fair.
And you guys had to discipline based on all those outside influences and try and make it make sense to us. And that's a hard ask.
It was at times, and it was a hard. It was hard explaining to the different families why you were doing or not doing to what they thought. And that's why I tell any young couple parents, listen, you get together with your spouse, you figure out how you want to approach it, and you stick to it.
Yeah.
As long as you two are together on it, the rest don't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be laying down with each other, and all the other outside influences can deal with it how they need to deal with it. But yeah, that was our approach. All right,
Well, it
so
also kind of
go ahead.
sparks, this will probably be more of a, another conversation for another day, but something else to kind of dive into there is how the things that we were exposed to or introduced to between travels and different family experiences and just life, prepared us to be very adaptable. I'm living outside of New York City as a self-proclaimed Georgia girl. So, the way that, we've all adjusted to very different environments and circumstances. And, I don't think that would have been as easy had we not been exposed to all the different like cultures and perspectives and things that we had early on. So that's another thing we can dive into later on.
Yeah, so that's a great tease for having you back next week. Here's
Are
your
you
I
taking
guess
notes,
so.
Dad?
huh?
Are you taking notes? Are you writing down all these
Well, it's
ideas?
recorded, so
Yeah, I usually go back and listen to whatever the previous couple of episodes were to make sure I stay on track because I'm getting older. It's hard for me to remember things.
Bless your heart.
Yeah, thanks. I will say before I turn it over to you guys one last time is one of the neat things has been as a parent being 22 and 19 and starting to have a family. Couldn't imagine being on this side of it. And thanks, Kim, for telling everybody your age because now I can't tell anybody that I'm 45 anymore. But being 55, it's cool to be able to now seek your opinions, your advice on things. And that's not something I used to think of being 22, 25, 30. Hey, someday I'm going to be looking at my kids and seeking their opinion or advice. So that's really a cool thing that I enjoy, and it's not lost on me that we have that relationship now. That's a very real thing, and maybe not daily or weekly, but periodically we touch base. Kim and I had breakfast yesterday morning. That was not impromptu, but it's not something we get to do all the time. But I look forward to those, just being able to keep the conversation going. So with that, Andrea, I'll start with you. Any question you want to ask me?
Got caught up in our conversation. I forgot to think. I guess, I feel like we've had plenty of conversations looking back, so I'm not sure that there's any like glaring, questions of our childhood. I do kind of wonder, like back then, did you have a chance, when you were kind of in the thick of things when we were super young, did you have a chance like sit and I guess kind of like dream of what, your kind of family legacy, like what that would turn into, 20 years down the road? Or was it just kind of so inundated with day to day of having four babies that it was like,
Yes.
caught in the whirlwind? Or
Yes.
like, what did you think our family would become?
So growing up in a traditional Southern family, it was you got married, you have kids, you all live within 3 miles of each other, and you just go through life with your family, being around the block.
Yeah.
That was never me. when I was in high school, I wanted to move to Florida as soon as I could, and spent, first 5 years trying to get there out of high school. And then when we started having kids and raising a family, honestly, the first 5, 6 years, it was making sure there was enough money to put food on the table and we had a place to live. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a time where we were living in a house and I got a call that, we've been making our rent payment and the landlord hadn't made the mortgage payments and they foreclosed on the house. Literally had a little over a weekend to find us a new place to live. So it was those kind of things that a lot of it was just trying to get through. As we got to Florida and my career got established, and then really coming back to Sugar Hill was the first time I really had the opportunity to start thinking about long term. What, you guys were, I think Kim was in 8th grade when we moved back here.
So
Going
7th.
into 8th.
Yeah, you were, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
And so that's when I really remember thinking, what do I want for each of you? Where do I want us? And then I would say, in the last 10 years, probably, when I started writing the blog, that was 2008, 2009, maybe. Part of that was driven by, I want to leave something where, if nothing else, you guys had something to go back to and recall, here's what Dad was thinking, or here's what, was going on. And so giving you guys the opportunity to at least go to college and beyond. But our whole focus was trying to get you guys to a place where you can make your own way and be happy in your own world and create your own life. And, that from the time we were in Florida, when you guys were little, that was my underlying drive, was to do whatever I could as your dad, and together with your mom, create an environment to where you guys can be successful and be happy. And that hasn't changed. That's been the prayer since you guys were little. I just want my kids to be happy, and to pursue life and the passions that drive you and motivate you. So that hasn't changed. But as far as me and leaving a legacy, family, it's that's kind of evolved over the last 15, 20 years. That answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Kim?
Mine's not nearly as deep as that question, but just
Well,
as
I may have made it deeper than.
He took it a few levels down.
As we've been talking and I've been thinking back through my experiences, it just kind of struck me that there had to have been times that you and Mom just like laughed at us. Like when you're a kid, you don't really think of your parents as having lives outside of you. Like we knew Mom had her friends, you went golfing, and of course you went to work. We knew you did things, but we don't think of, like after we go to bed for the night, that's it. That's nothing else happens until we wake up in the morning.
Well,
and there
that's
had
right.
to have been times that you guys just like were like, guess what Kymberly did today? Can you believe her dumb ass?
Yes.
I knew the answer was yes because I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, mostly though, there were times where, we lay down and you are not going to believe what I had to deal with today. And then I'd be like, oh my God, that's funny. That's just funny. And she'd be like, your mom would be like, no, it wasn't funny at the time. So yeah, there are a lot of those moments, but it's a lot of it's just being encouraging to each other. Because there are a lot of good stuff that would go on. I remember, I can't remember what Andrea did, but mom called me at work and she's like, "Hey, you're not gonna believe this," and it was good. I can't remember Kyle being accepted at the school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, things like that took place that we would share. And then your mom back then she was all about serving and helping others. And
I mean, she still is.
Well, yeah. But specifically back then, I mean, I remember, "Hey, you need to stay home with the kids tonight." "Oh, okay, you going out?" "Well, I'm going to help someone or serve someone." That was just part of who she was and is. So yeah, we did have lives, in addition to raising a family, but it was always, I wouldn't give anything for the times that we had raising you guys. Because as you developed and became your own people, your own person, that was the fun part. And especially through middle school, high school, I won't say which kid. I remember mom calling me saying, "This kid will not participate in any more sports." And I was like, "Well, hold on. let's talk about this." "Oh no, I'm done talking because they're not listening and whatever." "Okay, can we talk about when I get home?" "Oh yeah, we can talk about it." Yeah. But again, then there were the other phone calls where, "Hey, have you talked to, Kim, or have you talked to Andrea?" Or, because by now you got cell phones and stuff. And so that was the fun part of most of the nighttime conversations after you guys would go to bed, was just different stories. But yeah, Kim, you're right. It'd be like, "You're not going to believe what, Ryan said or Kyle said." And for those wondering, if you hear the name Ryan or Ben, that's the same person. And depending on when you met him, will determine how you know him, whether you know him as Ben or whether you know him as Ryan. If it helps, just call him Ben Ryan.
Yes.
All right. Any other last thoughts?
No. Nope.
All right. Well, listen, ladies, I can't thank you enough. It's pretty cool to have you guys come on and share with your old man and just kind of reminisce about old times. But
Fun.
yeah, and I hope this is the first of several, and hopefully we can do this again next week, and I get one, if not both of your brothers on to join us. Well, I know everyone's busy. You guys are doing your own thing, and so I do appreciate your time tonight. And for those watching or listening on iTunes or Spotify, appreciate your time. And if you want to be a part, shoot me a private message, DM, and let me know if there's a subject you want to cover. And by all means, if you would like to come on and be a special guest to share some of your own life lessons, I would love to have you be a part of this. But if not, please continue to listen, like, and share with all your friends. And until next time, peace. Take care.